Hello, my lovely listeners. I'm Dr. Mary Barson.
And I'm Dr. Lucy Burns. Welcome to this episode of Real Health and Weight Loss. Gorgeous ones, before we get into this next podcast, I just wanted to tell you that by popular demand, the No Sugar Challenge is back. The 7-day No Sugar Challenge gives you a wonderful program which includes recipes, includes advice on how to feed your family sugar, and all the things that you need to do to be able to stop or at least reduce your sugar for 7 days. The challenge starts November 21st with a 2-day lead-in, but you can buy the program now and get yourselves ready. Just go to our website, rlmedicine.com/no sugar, all one word, all lowercase. See you there, gorgeous ones. Good morning, lovely listeners. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today I have a first, and the first is that I'm interviewing 2 people. So we've had lots of podcasts where obviously it's just Dr. Mary and me, and we've had others where I'm interviewing some, but this is our first throuple. So I'm very excited to introduce a gorgeous pair of women. They run their own podcast as well, and we'll talk a bit about that. But I'm going to introduce to you fabulous women, Louise Reynolds and Jackie Fletcher. Welcome, girls. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
I feel really special that we're a special, fabulous threesome.
Absolutely. I know there were many other jokes that I could have done about menages, but I decided to refrain and just go with the throuple. So, lovely listeners, these 2 fabulous women both live a low-carb/ketogenic lifestyle, and I am going to ask them to tell their stories first because they have had miraculous and wonderful transformations living a low-carb life. So, Lou, perhaps if you would like to lead, because leading Lou sounds good, I'll get you to tell your story first.
Well, thank you very much. I've been living low carb and keto carnivore, all variations thereof since about 2015. And I low carb, my primary reason is because I had, have now massive weight loss. So I was the morbidly obese lady in 2012 at maxing out about 134 kilos. And I started my journey with weight loss surgery in 2012. I had a vertical sleeve gastrectomy and I lost, a good 40 kilos. And then in 2015, I had quite a significant motorcycle accident where I had some quite major trauma. And really for me, so low carb gives me the benefit of maintaining my weight loss, as well as, inflammation and managing a chronic pain condition. So I get the bonus plan. I've come for the weight loss, but I've got the added value of managing chronic pain. So today, tipping the scales at 65 kilos, gone. I have now, since 2015, really embraced the low carb, keto, carnivore, all the variations, intermittent fasting thereof. So, my daily living is, anywhere between low carb, keto, dipping my toe back into carnivore, alternate day fasting, really keeping it refining, that sort of the feedback for me. So, just loving the simplicity of it all.
Oh, absolutely. We love simplicity, the ease. It's been one of our themes, make it easy. Jackie, darling, tell us your story. What brought you to low carb?
So I've always been overweight, and when I was 18, I had an operation on my ovaries that took them away, and then my weight ballooned even more, which I now understand is about the hormones. But I was always battling with my weight from a child. Done all sorts of weight loss programs, mostly in my teens, starting really early on, about 12, with Weight Watchers and things like that. By the time I got to my 20s, I was less dieting, but I still did some because, you're always trying to do something. But I was never very good at it, and I would only last a few weeks. By the time I got to 2017, I was weighing, I think it's, if we're talking kilos, 105 kilos, 231 pounds, 16 and a half stone. And I had no intention of losing weight. diets don't work. What's the point? I've got no motivation. I can't keep it up. I'm not good enough. All these things going around my head until I came across Gary Taubes' book, Why We Get Fat. Everything sort of clicked into place. So I've been low carb keto since 2017, so 5 years this month, and it's fabulous. I started it just trying to lose a stone, which is about 14 pounds, 7 kilos, something like that. And now 50 pounds down, 20 to 25 kilos down, and feeling great.
Wonderful. And I think that's the thing that can happen with a low carb lifestyle, is that people can lose considerable numbers, massive numbers. And for many people, it feels like it's insurmountable. How could I possibly lose this much weight? But it is entirely doable. I was also going to say I love Gary Taubes' book. That's a good one. And lots of people have their first book, their epiphany book. Mine was actually The Obesity Code by Jason Fung. What was yours, Lou?
I think for books, it was my mum, actually. She started me on my journey. She gave me 2 cookbooks because I love cooking, The Real Meal Revolution and What the Fat. Perhaps my one was obviously, my mum sort of got me started on the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. That's wonderful. Now, I think it's interesting because you two both have been doing this for, 4 or 5 years plus. And people love to say, low carb's not sustainable. You can't do it forever. It's only a short-term fix. What'll happen when you start eating carbs again? And so I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, given that both of you do live low carb permanently.
When I hear that, it's one, they say, okay, remember the keto crutch that came out? Oh my God, you're going to get keto crutch. People are always looking to an out. It's expensive, it's not sustainable, it's a quick fix, it's just water weight. And it's such a dissonance for me to go, but here's my story, here's my lived experience. You do you, girlfriend, boyfriend. It is what it is. And I make it work by, as we said, the KISS principle. So we like to keep it simple. I keep it smart. It's about preparation. It's about making smart choices. And I think the other thing is you have to know yourself. And that gets to your why. So what's your goal? Keep your eye on the prize. What's my why? It's about chronic pain management. So, if I know that I go for the croissant or the bread roll or the pasta, I'm going to hurt. I'm going to ache. And I don't want to ache.
No, absolutely.
So know yourself, know your why, keep it simple.
Wonderful advice. What about you, Jack? What keeps you motivated?
So my motivation is health and wanting to live a good life and be able to live that life. And my idea is I just sit down in a chair one night and go to sleep, and that's it. So that's my motivation. Also, my kids are 40 years younger than me, so I'd like to see them grow up and have grandkids and things like that. So that's mine. Why? And the way I think it's sustainable is because I have just spent 2 weeks in Spain and I have eaten off plan almost back to what I used to do before. And that is not sustainable. I felt really bad. I went to bed with reflux. I couldn't sleep. All different things were coming back or even starting that I didn't have before. So that was really interesting. And I was sort of, I want to get home and I want to get back on plan.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it, when suddenly like low carb becomes your default, your home base, where you're looking forward to coming back to it. I often find that with fasting, if I've been away and eaten, maybe away for a weekend or something and had 3 meals a day and maybe dessert or something with it, by Tuesday I'm thinking, no, I've got to get back to some fasting. I just need to kind of feel better.
Yeah, I was eating so much food, just incredible amounts of food compared to normal.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting, isn't it? You two have quite different ways then that you approach your low carb lifestyles. Are your families on board? As in, do they eat low carb, or tell me about that?
Yeah, it was super interesting when we started the low carb journey. So I'm with Andrew, my partner. Andrew, we have 3 or 3 now adult young men. And so when we got together 10 years ago, we had the 3 teenage boys. And as you can imagine, they were not on board with, the carbohydrates, restricting carbohydrates. So because they were obviously, going through a growth phase and they loved junk food. We slowly, incrementally got them on board. And the way we did that, particularly for young men, was to teach them how to cook. So if you've listened to the 2 Keto Dudes, and Richard Morris is an advocate for teaching particularly young men to cook. So what we did was divide and conquer. What a great parenting style. So Andrew and his 2 would cook for 3 nights a week, and my Hayden and I would cook for 3 nights. And then Fridays was catch and kill, which usually was, takeaway for the boys. Anyway, so we divided and conquered, and we did the meal planning, we did the prep, we did the cook, we did the cleanup and all that sort of stuff. So it was also about a little bit of social regulation and adult preparation in there as well. So we got them to think what we need to do. So in the meal planning, they had to cook low carb. And it was so good, especially for the eldest, and his skin, so beautiful, not an acne spot inside. Hayden with ADHD, he could actually think, and his mood lifted. The youngest, Aaron, actually almost, his skin also improved, and they become actually delightful young men. They actually talked to us, it was really lovely. And when they went off plan, and then you could sort of see, the skin and the mood and all that sort of stuff. So, but Andrew lost 20 kilos. I didn't think that he was already a lean man. Anyway, being in the military, he actually, his skin improved as well. He was actually quite lean, almost, a bit too lean. But then we moved into weightlifting as part of my rehab as well. So, So, yes, Andrew is very much on board. I think even more so, he's one of those low-carb zealots, and he will tell you why that's really, so he's very passionate about it. So,
wonderful.
My greatest support. I couldn't really do this journey if it wasn't really for him on board as well.
Well, I actually think you probably could, but it is nice to have support. Because certainly in my house, nobody else is low carb. I live in a house of carboholics, and you can still do it, but it can be a bit harder, but it's still doable. What about you, Jackie? Have you got your family support?
I have the support in the sense that they support what I do. Julian is the one person, my husband, should be low carb because he is type 2 diabetic, but he just doesn't want to know. Over the time, what we've done, because where I was dropping potatoes, then Ben thought he would give it a go. So then Alex said, you don't need to make potatoes for me. So we don't have potatoes with meals anymore. They have a lot less pasta, hardly any rice. So a lot of that stuff has gone, but they still have their sweets and cakes and biscuits and things, cookies, whatever you call them over there. So I think they're very aware because they're now 19 and I've been doing this for 5 years, so that it's sort of become ingrained. But yeah, I think it's great that Louise has got Andrew with her, but you can do it without.
Yeah, that's a bit how it works in our house. I'm the cook. I don't cook for my girls because they're vegetarian. So I've told them, you can have my food, but of course I don't want it. So that means good, more for me and my husband. And I'm not cooking. I don't cook pasta, rice, potatoes or anything. So unless he wants to go and cook it himself, which he doesn't eat it either.
A great example Jackie shares with us is that on nights when you go out to your training and that sort of stuff, or you're away, then Julian will cook up like a chili con carne with rice and stuff. So at least it sounds like, Julian really does respect, because Julian does do the cooking for Jackie. Not to speak for Jackie, but Jackie tells the story that Julian does do the cooking. And that he's very mindful and respectful of those sorts of things and will cook when Jackie's not around. I think that's an absolutely, beautiful, and respectful way that he's demonstrating his support.
Not only that, when we have chili con carne, he does one pot with beans for them and one pot with just meat and vegetables for me.
Beautiful, beautiful. And it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, basically what you're describing is that he's still whilst he may not be completely low carb, he's still very much involved with real food as a baseline.
For me and the boys, Julian doesn't eat the same as us, and he eats all the rubbish.
Well, he will one day in his own time, hopefully the penny will drop.
We can hope.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's frustrating, I think, for lots of people when they've got a beloved who they know could benefit so much from changing their food or the way they eat. But if they're not ready, they're not ready.
I think that that's absolutely, the point. And, we see that whenever we walk down the street, whenever we go to the supermarket and, there's this internal dialogue. Oh, my God, I'd love to be able to evangelize, about these benefits and to sort of say, and when you're looking in people's, carts and all that sort of stuff. And I try not to be judgmental, because that was me. That was literally before low carb. We were buying those mega Costco boxes of crisps and, the tiny teddies for the lunch boxes and all that stuff, that highly processed, the snack foods for the boys, thinking that was, we were doing the good thing. The juices. Super interesting. Obviously, I'd spent the last 2 years in Thailand. Come back to Melbourne and I open up my Woolies online shopping. This is our supermarket, Jackie, like our Tesco's online shop. And in my basket is the saved shopping list. It was horrible, it was literally. So the last shop from when I did a big family shop, and it was, seriously, was that what I was feeding the family? And it was like, jaw-droppingly horrendously highly processed rubbish food, the CRAP, and how far we've come, and that's the thing when you reflect back on it. It's just how far we've come in such a short time, relatively, of our health journeys. But, as Jackie's holiday reminds us, it's within a space of 2 weeks. It's all these things come back and they serve as really good reminders.
Absolutely. And in fact, I think that's, I know lots of us talk about non-scale victories in the low-carb world, because focusing purely on weight as your only guide is such a, will end up tripping you up, because we can always tell ourselves that we will eat less tomorrow or be good, I'm doing air quotes, tomorrow, or make it up tomorrow, it won't matter. And so the thing is, my mum used to always say, well, tomorrow never comes, and it honestly doesn't, because every day is a tomorrow, and you can end up then back where you started, or 5 years down the track still doing the same thing, because your brain keeps saying, yeah, but I'll be good tomorrow. Whereas if you focus on how you feel in the moment, like you, Jackie, you recognise that in a very short time you felt rubbish. Therefore, you go, well, what am I actually trying to achieve here? I'm trying to feel good now. I don't want to wait till tomorrow to feel good. I can feel good now.
Yeah, and the struggle while I was away of even that, then going to bed and thinking tomorrow I won't have lunch, or tomorrow I'm only going to have one course at dinner, and it just didn't happen.
It's interesting. Why do you think that is?
I think it was the social setup of being on holiday and with the family, and just going out and thinking, I'm not even hungry, but I'm eating. It's really weird. It's really weird how easily we get back into those old ways.
I think this is a great example of, stories in our head, in that for all of us, holidays are a free-for-all. You can do anything you like on holidays. You get to stay up late. You get to watch telly whenever you want. You get to do whatever you want. You're no routine. You just can do whatever you want. And so it's a bit like your brain runs rampant. And all of a sudden it gets this bit of sort of FOMO. It's got to fit everything in until you go back to your real life. And that everything can include, stuff that you don't even, don't normally eat, like gelati or cocktails or stuff that's not part of your everyday boring routine life.
Oh, I'm laughing because I think it's those sorts of rules that we set ourselves up for. And, and we have certain, as you said, here's the story, or this is the context, it's the rules of engagement. When we're in this setting, this is what I'm going to do, my game plan. And it's whenever I start, it's even before I get to the holiday destination, Jackie knows about, I'm in the Qantas Club lounge and it's the free food loophole. It's only free food. Oh my gosh, yes. Game on, girlfriend. And I'm, tucking into whatever they've got on offer there. And I try and make smart choices, but holidays are stressful for whatever reason. Travel's stressful, and it's been particularly stressful, as you know, in Australia. The lines, the queues, just even getting to the other side of the security gate has been very stressful. And you're waiting for, you don't want to miss your flight. And whatever that stress and cortisols are makes me hungry. And the free food loophole, whack, it's game on. And then obviously the 2-for-1 cocktails happy hour as well. That's always good to go through the menu.
Oh, absolutely. And these are all little, look, they're marketing magical tricks, marketing mischief. Companies know these tricks. That's why they invent them. But yeah, I think bringing awareness to them is really important, because for a lot of us, we don't even know why we do it, why it's there, what happens. And, I was just telling this story the other day about if you go to church. Now, I don't go to church, but when I used to go to church when I was a kid, nobody is sitting in church eating buckets of popcorn. They just go to church. You're not wishing you had popcorn. You're not pining for popcorn. You're basically going, you're watching some person put on a show, and then you go. However, if you go to the movies, similar circumstance, maybe no priest, but there is somebody telling a story, and you're desperate for popcorn. So the stories about the scenarios run deep for a long, long time, and it's why we have trouble in difference when you're out of your normal routine. Yeah.
And I think that those contexts are really important, and, those rules of engagement, those patterns, whenever the associations really. We're at the cinema, and we had the large bucket of buttery, salty popcorn, which never really seemed to fill you up, but you had to buy a big drink to go with it because to quench your thirst from all the salt. Yeah, I think those contexts are really important.
Yeah, and that you can change that story in your brain at any stage if you want to. You really can. One of the things I want to talk to you guys about, because I know we've had a little chat about this in the past, is the concept of abstaining and moderating.
We are the queens of abstaining and moderating.
Yes, so lovelies, you will know that I have often spoken about the concept of sugar addiction or carbohydrate addiction, particularly processed food addictions. So people will come and they'll say, I can't live without my bread and I'm a chocoholic, and they really, and as did I, Lucy loves lollies, that was my mantra. The way I like to think about it is that there's like 3 buckets of people. So you've got the bucket of people that don't care that much about food, like they'll have a piece of cake once a year if they have to. They don't even think about it. You've got the second bucket of people who like food and possibly eating too much, but can rein it in if they need to. It's just getting that motivation to do so. And then you've got the third bucket who are truly addicted. So despite adverse outcomes, they've got diabetes, they've lost their toes, and they still can't stop eating their processed food. And so for lots of us, we're in that second or third bucket, and identifying yourself is really helpful. So Lou, which bucket are you in?
Hi, my name is Louise, and I'm a bucket number 3, abstainer. So I'm proudly abstaining. I should be wearing my abstainer medal, my coin of abstinence. It took a long time to put a name to that, or happily identify with bucket number 3. It took a long time to work out what were the inputs and the drivers, what was driving that behaviour where, I so remember, in the deepest, darkest, university study days, and, would have the Tim Tams in the freezer. And these are like penguins, Jackie, and there's 11 in a packet. I'll just have one. And you're studying, and you could hear the voice, Louise, I'm in the freezer, come and get me. There's 10 more of me here for you. You want one. So, and rapidly over the night, I'd be basically mainlining that whole packet. And, they're 100 calories each. Back in the days when we were counting calories, that was 1,100 calories. That was my total daily allowance. And it's hard. It's hard to do that. But for me, I need that structure. I'm a structuralist. If I know that my boundaries are here, do not pass go, do not collect $200. It's a slippery slide if I do that. Unlike my good friend Jackie, this is the yin and yang of this relationship. I love it. It's just so yin and yang, you know.
What about you, Jackie? Can you have just one biscuit and leave the rest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that I do, but when it comes to biscuits, I generally have 2 or 3, but that's it. And even before being low carb keto, I would have chocolate and I could have it on the couch beside me. I'd have one strip and the bar would sit there for the rest of the week, and then I might have another one another day. And I'd always get people saying, how can you do that? I'd have to eat the whole bar. And I never did. I used to throw away bars of chocolate where they'd been sitting in the cupboard for so long because I hadn't eaten them. I even remember once having a big Easter egg, and I didn't even start it until July. But it didn't taste very good. So now if I get an Easter egg, I eat it straight away because they don't last very long.
Which is, I guess, that thing that you were talking about, Louise, of knowing yourself well. So I think we all wish we were moderators, and there's this temptation to be one. You know, look, I'll just have one. One won't hurt. You got to live. You can have one. One's not going to kill you. So that's either other people telling you that story or the story in your head.
I think, I mean, I need to blame my mother for this. No, to be fair, blame. I attribute her voice in my head, which is a pretty scary place to be. And it's scary to have my mother's voice in my head. But it's this imprint. And I think if we go back to those food values, and I think there's a lot of conditioning that comes with the story, the storyteller, how that story has become to be told in the various iterations of those stories. In for a penny, in for a pound. As you said, you only live once. Go on, it's your birthday, Christmas, Easter, holiday, Hanukkah, Eid, whatever it is, whatever the festival is. We're on holiday, this is Christmas, New Year. But those food values is really a strong imprint for me because from my grandparents and my parents, that post-war period, because think of the starving children in Africa. These were some of the things that we were told, and having to eat everything on your plate because that's a food value. And that was particularly hard when, and that sort of is part of the, how did I get fat? I'm an intelligent woman. I should know better. That's a great story. How can you be teaching undergraduate health professionals? You should know better, Dr. Lou. And it's like, But my son had special needs. He was ADHD. He was on dexamphetamine. He wasn't hungry. I didn't want to waste food. So I was eating my meal and his meal. I got fat overeating, as well as, all the other stuff that was going on, a lot of emotional stuff. But one of the food values was don't waste the food. You just prepared this food for this child, ungrateful thing, not eating it. So I'm not going to waste it. I'm going to eat it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why mums eat the crusts that the kids leave, on their plate rather than throw them out. They'll just gobble down a crust, which is, it's not even nice, but you still do it. I remember doing that, eating, some end of a fish finger. Ugh.
Chicken nuggets.
Yeah, just pop them in. So absolutely, knowing your stories, knowing the stories in your head is absolutely critical. And for me, the line, and I know you've heard it, Lou, and you would have too, Jackie, is that 1 is too many and 1,000 is never enough. The day I heard that was like a light bulb going off, because that's what I realised, that when my brain goes, just have one, that would be fine if one worked, if one satisfied whatever it is I was looking for. But it's like an itch that just you can never scratch. As soon as you start, you're then just tearing bits of skin off. So for me, it is much easier to have none than one. But for you, Jack, it's obviously fine for you to have 1 or 2, and then you don't wolf down the whole packet.
Can I just say, just between me and the listeners, I'm just going to give them a hint. Jackie loves chocolate raisins, so she can't start with 1. She will have the whole packet. Or are you going to say, no, I can have 6?
No, I can't have 6.
Okay, you can do 10. Yeah.
No, I need a few more than that.
Maybe 12.
But the difference, Lou, is I might eat half a packet or I might eat the whole packet, but I won't eat it tomorrow.
Can I just...
What about you with pork scratchings?
Yeah, but they're only like 20-gram packets. They're only little, and they're self-limiting because they're just fat, right? They're just crunchy, salty fat. And that's the same, I have to say, I've got it down to, it's that Dorito factor, right? It's salt and crunch and fat. That's why macadamias are like crack to me. You know, they're packets of crack. And for the Australian listeners, the $9 Aussie dollar 200-gram packet at Woolies is fantastic, and it is self-limiting, and I have a little cup and I put 50 grams in there and I try and self-limit to that, which I tend to do, but it's the salt and fat is my crack lever, you know, and I'm always looking for that crunch. That's the thing. So if I'm going to have a snacky thing, salty, crunchy, those sorts of fatty, even those little cheese puffy things, they're quite good as well. But it is, I can't do it. It's amazing how Jackie has this inner power. I think it's a superpower, Jackie.
And there's benefits and disadvantages to both. So you two are abstainers, so you don't have it and you can't have it. But on the other side, that's really good because you don't have it. And me, I can have it and I can stop, but then I will dip into it. So I will have some chocolate raisins every few weeks.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And for some people, you know, they have the same stories around alcohol. So some people will have that as soon as they open the bottle of wine, they've got to finish it. And, you know, whereas I can have a bottle and then forget about it. And it's a bit like your mouldy chocolate, Jackie. And I go, and I tip it down the sink. It's not that I'm trying, it's actually easy. So for the people that can moderate, it is easy for you to do so. And the people that can't, you'll never be a moderator. So just stop trying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's really important. And I say with my clients, you have to recognise, are you a moderator or an abstainer? And you've got to stick with it.
But is this where, you know, circling back to your question about, you know, is low-carb keto lifestyle, these are sort of unsustainable. But I think in this journey of being mindfully aware of what it is, your environment, and how do you support all of that, you have the people that have got your back. That if you have people that are perhaps disabling, you know, not the enabling, but the disabling, the challenging types, go on, just have one bite. It is, you know, whatever. You have to really have strategies to be able to not mitigate, but to deal with that. And it's just like, no, I'm allergic, or no, I've got a food intolerance, or you make something up just to go, thank you, but no, not for me. You know, you have to have these strategies for the rules for engagement for social situations, because we are social creatures. We will always be going to the office, the parties, the work functions, the social clubs, whatever it is, church, after church, morning teas. So the rules of engagement then become really important, because you still want to live your life. You don't want to be cloistered like a low-carb keto nun away in the monastery. But we've just heard that sometimes, you know, when we've gone out into the fray, we become a bit loose. But yet we find comfort in knowing structures, routines and patterns. And, you know, like you said, getting back to my 2 meals a day and my fasting, I feel better.
Absolutely. And the key is that you have to know yourself, and permanent weight loss is not a meal plan. It is so much more. It's a personal development journey, and it can take a long time and it can take a few goes.
Absolutely. I think it's been an exciting journey, because when we first started, like when Andrew and I first started, you know, we just started, you know, dipping the toe into the low carb. Then we went keto. We've dipped our toes into, you know, periods of carnivore, like keto carnivore, various iterations. We've done, think of every combination and permutation of like fasting, intermittent, sort of extended. Jackie and I ended up doing 6 months of alternate day fasting. The results have been high fat, high protein, and every leverage, low, high, whatever combination we've had. So the results as I've gone along in my journey have been, you know, some good, some not so good. Insightfully reflective on the journey.
I think the 100-day alternate day fasting that we did was a great example how we're all different, because we did it together and we had different results.
Oh, what happened with you, Jack?
So Louise was doing every other day, which was one day on, one day off. I was doing 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, where I was fasting, and 40 hours each time. And I kept doing it, but I just was not happy. It just didn't sit well with me. And after about 9 weeks, I didn't feel great. I just said, I'm stopping this. I'm not carrying on. So I got about halfway, maybe 3/4 of the way through, and I stopped. But you, Lou, had really great results.
It broke a stall. I was like winner chicken dinner on the other day, not on the fasting day. But it busted through a stall that I'd been stuck at this weight and nothing seemed to be doing. I'd done the high protein thing. Yeah, we'd done other, like 2 days a week. We did some alternate day. It's not alternate. We did the fasting pattern of 48 hours a week. That hadn't done anything. But once I was doing it every other day, and it ended up I was on Jackie's challenge. So loved it so much I extended it for another 80 days because living in Thailand, that was Buddhist Lent. So I gave up eating for Lent, alternate day eating for Lent. So ended up being 6 months, 180 days. And I think, it was good for me. It was a structure. I knew what I was doing every other day. It really made me concentrate on maximising the 2 meals a day that I needed to make sure I had adequate protein. The fasted exercise was really good. I lost about 7 extra kilos. That was had a bit of obviously carb creep, over the years, and it sort of busted through that. It was really good to see on the scales. And Andrew and I really loved not cooking. It was super good. No dishes, no meal planning, but we really focused on having good food on the 2 meals that we were eating.
And I did the 9 weeks and I lost about 2 pounds.
But what you're describing again is that eating is not a team sport. It's an individual pursuit. Everyone has different results. And you are the boss of you, so you get to decide what works for you. And you get to decide if alternate day fasting works for you and you love doing it, then there's nothing wrong with that. You don't, people will say, oh my God, you're so restrictive. How can you be like that? You've got disordered eating. If you're happy doing it and it works for you, it's fine. If you're doing it and it's making you miserable and you continue to do it because you think you should, then that's probably where a problem comes. Knowing that you have permission to do whatever you need to do for your body is really important because you are the boss of you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you have to try these things to know whether they work or not.
Give it a go. And Jackie was almost, she's going, look, I'm really sorry, but this isn't working for me. And it's like, you do you, girlfriend. It's not working. You're not happy. I know that. You're not getting the results that you set out to achieve. You don't have to flog yourself for another, you got to a day 100, for 120. I'm not going to give you a medal, Jackie. There's no medals handed out just because you did it. I think you're more in tune and aware and, as you said, the boss of yourself, and you're really honouring yourself by saying, look, I made the best decision to start and I'm making the best decision to finish because I'm not getting the results that I need. So you don't need my permission, Jackie.
And I gave it a good go to know that it didn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes people, it's a good point that you make, Jack, because sometimes people will do something and they're perhaps not sticking to their plan. And then they go, well, this plan's not working. And it's because they're not actually doing the plan. But they blame the plan that they're not doing for not working. You know that story?
Yeah, it's super interesting you say that. I was listening to a podcast. Obviously, it's so good being able to go to the office now that we can all get out and about. And I'm really enjoying listening to podcasts and audiobooks again. And it's an interesting fact that we think, again, it's about the stories that we tell ourselves about, say if we're tracking macros and our food diaries, that we typically underestimate the amount that we're eating, the volume, the calories that perhaps are reported for those, all these things that we underestimate because the true nature of what we're meant to be tracking, because of that effect, when we're being watched, when we have that sort of watching, of course I didn't eat that. I didn't lick that. I didn't take a sample of that. I don't track that.
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, we did a journaling challenge last year and we all had a snigger about the fact that, when we used to go to Weight Watchers and we'd have to document what we wrote, how we just...
Your points.
Yeah, we just didn't write down if we ate ice cream. We just didn't put it in. So if it wasn't in the journal, it didn't happen. It's like, right, well, so, yeah, it's stories in your head. Absolutely.
And I think the gamification that comes from that as well, we make it a game, and sometimes making a game is good, if you're that competitive person, and it became a competition when you're doing the points. I remember the points, like what kind of yummy stuff can we have that's only like 1 point?
Yeah. The only problem was that it was rubbish, like, some sort of diet chocolate mousse.
Yogurt. Ooh.
Yeah, cheesecake yogurt that tasted like vomit, but I still ate it because it was only 1 point.
The mousse was nice. I like the little fluffy mousse, the Nestle mousse. That was nice.
Yeah, it was not good for me because I'd have it and it was like just inhaling air and I'd think, oh, and then I look at all the crap that was in it and think, oh, I would have been better to actually have some cream with some cocoa in it and some berries and have a proper food. And I would have been satisfied with that.
That's an interesting point. Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
It's about regret. And I've had people ask me, knowing what you know now, would you have still got the weight loss surgery? And people sort of tend to ask this because obviously if I had known about low carb keto, it's almost like a sliding door moment. Interesting leading up to the weight loss surgery because, well, one, there's a lot of, still feel there's a lot of stigma around weight loss surgery. Because it's a cheat's way out. Louise, you cheated. And all these layers of stigma and judgment, But that's me being a sensitive, delicate petal.
No, I don't think it is. I think it's true. I think there is stigma around it. We could do a whole episode on that because I'm so anti-stigma, but I think there is.
Okay. And even within the low-carb keto community, no, don't do that. You see it on the forums and stuff, and don't do that. Try this. Anyway. And I did Ducan, which was sort of, this is in the early 2000s-ish. So Ducan was obviously the French chap doctor who, was low carbish. The Tony Ferguson shakes, they were like low calorie, a little bit low carbish as well. And I had moderate success with those sorts of things, but again, not sustainable, and I put the weight back on. And being the very intelligent person I researched options, different variations, of course. I interviewed surgeons, I sort of basically went there with the articles highlighted and went, but this study said this. So what do you say, to this? So, I was basically at my wit's end. And I think the tools, and this is where I'm saying weight loss surgery for me is a tool. It's something that I have to be very careful with. It's a tool, it's an adjunct to the main primary lifestyle of low carb. In order to shift a large amount of weight, I needed to supercharge my weight loss, and it gave me that. It got me to the start point. So tools, whatever the tools are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we need to, and again, I could do a whole session on this about removing the shame from using whatever tool is necessary. It's the same, there's new medications out for weight loss that in certain people are incredibly effective. But there's a lot of people who are going, oh, you just lost weight because you had the injection. And then conversely, there are people who are just using the injection to get to their goal weight, but not actually changing anything about their food. They're still eating lots of junk. And so it really is just, everyone's just doing their best, I reckon.
Yeah. And it's, again, on the commute, I've been listening to Brené Brown, Atlas of the Heart, and that was really good. I know that she's a very, experienced researcher in that shame and guilt. And, her messages speak to me about, again, it's all about the layers of that story that we tell ourselves and why are we so hard on ourselves? Why are we judging ourselves? Why are we making it more difficult for ourselves? And, I think that's something that internal dialogue and the tone of that, and really sitting in whatever it is to reflect on, well, hang on, why am I feeling crappy about that?
Yeah. And, at the end of the day, for people that do emotional eating, they're doing it to soothe. They've got often trauma, difficult lives. You don't know what's going on in their story.
Oh, we can have a whole session on that. I know.
Exactly. It is just a tool, and the issue is that the tool is visible for the world to see. So it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy of shame and guilt around the way you look and what you've done to yourself and how disgusting you are and all of that talk that goes on.
But I know that you've spoken to our good friend Daisy Brackenhall, Keto woman, and I loved it when she sort of said she had that big wall of fat. She was protecting of, it's significant for her. It was a trauma. And when she said that, and it's like, oh, yes, we were. But I mean, I have Dr. Phil in my head as well. You're having that party in your mouth and you're eating, and how's that working for you? And when that concept of self-soothing, and, then you go back and you trace it all the way back to all those significant things, pretty rubbish things that happen in your life, and you're going, yeah, okay, that makes sense, but I'm here now, and even leading up to my weight loss surgery, I had 3 years working with a food-focused psychologist to understand that. And then after surgery, I, worked for another 2 years to get myself pretty much stable in that way to really unpack a lot of those issues. But food's a necessity, it's not like I can stop eating, well, I do fast, but in an alcohol way or a gambling way or a nicotine way or other way. We need food. That's why the food addiction stuff is fascinating.
It is. It's interesting though, because there are some comparisons, because while alcohol is alcohol, we still drink, like we still have to have fluid. And so you can put alcohol as a dopamine inducing product along with hyperpalatable processed foods. That's what they are. They're dopamine producing products. And the majority of people, if your focus is on real food, I know that we can still do binging on real food, but it's much less common and it is much less, I guess, destructive, because you are at least eating food that's got nutrients and it won't override those satiety signals that the junk food will. Lovely, gorgeous women. It has been delightful talking to you. We've had a wonderful time, and I am sure that we will have you both back on the podcast, because I think there is wisdom in us chatting, and everybody has their stories, and being able to share them is, I guess, part of what reduces the shame around eating, binging. There is no shame in it, and we all have done it, and we all may still do it, and it's really just about learning to manage it and recognizing that it's not a character flaw, it's just a tool.
Thank you, Dr. Lucy and Dr. Mary. So shout out to Dr. Mary and thank you, Dr.
yes.
Lucy.
By the time this episode comes to air, she will have had her baby.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I know. So are we, the real life medicine baby. So yeah, we are excited.
But thank you for the opportunity, and this council of wise women, the menage of the council of wise women. Happy to share anytime.
So, gorgeous women, if people want to learn more about you and what you do, because Jackie, I know you offer, you have clients and you offer coaching. Where can they find you? Everything is at Fabulously Keto. So website fabulouslyketo.com. Facebook is Fabulously Keto. Our Fabulously Keto Facebook group. People are welcome to join. Twitter, Fabulously Keto, and Instagram is Fabulously Keto One. Excellent. And your podcast is called
Fabulously Keto. We're on brand.
Surprise, surprise.
Excellent. So I'm a bit like you, Lou. I love listening to podcasts. I think that there is so much other messaging out there that is, designed to hijack our brains to eating Maccas or eating whatever chocolate rubbish there's out there. If we can spend some time unbrainwashing ourselves and re-brainwashing ourselves with helpful tools, that's really the way to go.
Oh, love it. On point.
We do love a podcast.
Good, darlings. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
So, my lovely listeners, that ends this episode of Real Health and Weight Loss. I'm Dr. Lucy Burns.
And I'm Dr. Mary Barson. We're from Real Life Medicine. To contact us, please visit rlmedicine.com.
And until next time, thanks for listening. The information shared on the Real Health and Weight Loss podcast, including show notes and links, provides general information only. It is not a substitute, nor is it intended to provide individualised medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor can it be construed as such. Please consult your doctor for any medical concerns.